My wife got cancer. I promised I'd stay. Weeks later, she called from her sister's house and said, "I'm divorcing you before you leave me." Violet had only been gone 2 nights. She had asked to stay with her older sister, Erica, for a few days because treatment was wearing her down and she needed a change of scenery. I had agreed immediately. Honestly, part of me was relieved. I hated admitting that, even to myself, but I was exhausted. For weeks, our lives had revolved around appointments, medication, meals she could tolerate, laundry, shopping, cleaning, and pretending we were both less scared than we actually were. I thought a few days with Erica might help Violet breathe. I thought I might finally sleep through the night. Instead, my wife called and asked for a divorce. "What did you just say?" Her voice was quiet. "I think we should end the marriage." I gripped the phone harder. "Why?" She hesitated. Then she said, "Because I know what happens next." "What happens next?" "You leave." I actually looked around the room as if someone else might explain what she meant. "Violet, I'm not leaving." "That's what you say now." "I've never said anything else." "You don't understand." "Then explain it." She took a breath. "I've been reading stories from women who got sick. Their husbands stayed at first. They went to appointments. They helped around the house. They said all the right things. And eventually they left." I waited for more. There wasn't any. "So because strangers left their wives, you think I'm going to leave you? It happens more than you think." "That isn't an answer." "Yes, it is." "No, Violet. It isn't." Her voice tightened. "I'm not going to wait until you decide I'm too much." I sat down. "You think I'm pretending? I think you mean what you're saying right now. And later? You'll get tired." "I am tired." Silence. I immediately realized how that sounded. "I'm tired because I'm scared and I barely sleep. I'm tired because I'm trying to hold everything together. That doesn't mean I want out. You don't know how you'll feel a year from now. Neither do you. I know how these things go." "No. You know how they went for other people." She started crying. I lowered my voice. "Come home." "No. Just come home. We'll sit down. We'll talk." "I already decided." Those 3 words scared me more than anything else she had said. Not, "I'm thinking about it." Not, "I'm afraid." Decided. I asked if Erica had put the idea in her head. She immediately said no. That part was true. Erica would later tell me she had spent most of those 2 days trying to convince Violet not to do it. But at the time, I didn't know that. All I knew was that 6 weeks into cancer treatment, my wife had decided the safest way to stop me from abandoning her was to abandon me first. I loved Violet. That was what made everything that followed so hard. We had met during our first year of university. Nothing dramatic happened. No love at first sight moment. We started talking because we kept ending up around the same people. Group conversations became private jokes. Private jokes became coffee. Coffee became dinners neither of us wanted to end. By the time university was over, being together felt less like a decision and more like the natural direction of our lives. We married not long afterward. For years, we were happy in the ordinary way people rarely appreciate while they have it. We argued over who forgot to replace the toilet paper. We bought furniture that looked better online than it did in our house. We had favorite takeout places. Routines. Plans we assumed we had plenty of time to figure out. Then Violet found a lump. She noticed it one night while getting ready for bed. At first, she tried to dismiss it. "It's probably nothing." "Maybe. But you should get it checked." She became defensive immediately. I said it's probably nothing. "I heard you." "Then stop looking at me like that." "Like what?" "Like I'm sick." I hadn't realized I was. Cancer had appeared in her family before. That was exactly why she was afraid to make the appointment. As long as she didn't know, there was still room to believe everything was fine. Eventually, she agreed to get checked. I went with her. When the doctor confirmed breast cancer, Violet went completely still. I was terrified too, but she looked like the room had disappeared around her. So I listened. The doctors explained that they had caught it at a stage where treatment options were encouraging. There would be chemotherapy, radiation, and because of her family history and risk factors, her medical team recommended she seriously consider more extensive preventive surgery as part of her long-term plan. On the drive home, Violet barely spoke. Halfway there, she suddenly said, "I don't want to die." I pulled over. She covered her face. I reached for her. "You're not doing this alone," she cried against my shoulder for several minutes. That became the promise I built everything around. "You're not doing this alone." Treatment changed our lives almost immediately. Appointments took over the calendar. Some days Violet was exhausted before noon. Other days she was angry at everything. Sometimes she wanted me close. Sometimes she couldn't stand being touched. I tried not to take it personally. I handled as much as I could. Cleaning, cooking, shopping, driving, paperwork. If she had an appointment, I went whenever possible. If she couldn't eat what I made something else. If she couldn't sleep, I sat awake beside her. I wasn't perfect. There were nights I went into another room so she wouldn't see how overwhelmed I was. There were mornings I sat in the car for an extra minute before going inside because I needed to breathe. But leaving her never crossed my mind. What worried me was how much time she started spending online. At first, she was looking for information about treatment. Then she found support groups. Some seemed helpful. Others fed every fear she already had. One night, she was sitting on the couch scrolling through her phone. "Do you know how many marriages fall apart after the wife gets seriously sick?" I looked up. "No. A lot." She kept reading. "Some husbands stay during treatment and leave later." "Okay." She looked at me. "That doesn't bother you?" "The stories bother me. But I don't know those people." "That's easy to say. What does that mean?" "Everybody thinks their marriage is different." I sat beside her. "Ours doesn't have to be anybody else's." She gave me a strange look. "You can't promise that." "I can promise what I'm going to do." "No. You can promise what you think you're going to do." That was the first time I realized something deeper was happening. The cancer had frightened her. That made sense. But now fear was changing the way she interpreted everything. If I stayed close, maybe I was only doing it out of guilt. If I told her she looked beautiful, maybe I was lying. If I said I wasn't leaving, maybe I simply hadn't reached my breaking point yet. Every reassurance became something she could dismiss. She started asking questions that had no safe answer. "What if surgery changes how I look? I'll still love you." "You don't know that." "What if this takes years?" "Then it takes years." "What if I can't have children?" "Then we figure out our options." "What if you get tired of taking care of me?" "I'll tell you if I'm struggling." "That doesn't mean I disappear." She would nod. Then days later, the same fear returned. I suggested therapy. Not because I thought there was something wrong with her. Because I could see she was drowning in thoughts she couldn't control. She shut the idea down immediately. "I'm not going. I'm not saying you need fixing." "Then stop treating me like I do." "I'm trying to give you somewhere safe to talk." "I have people to talk to." "Then I'll drop it." A couple of weeks later, after another argument about whether I secretly regretted staying, I suggested counseling again. She got angry. "I told you not to ask me that. I don't know what else to do." "Nothing. Stop acting like I'm broken." I never brought it up again while we were together. Then she asked to stay with Erica. I thought space might help. 2 nights later came the call. "I'm divorcing you before you leave me." I begged her not to make a permanent decision while she was frightened. She said that was exactly why she had to make it. I asked her to come home. She refused. I asked her to talk to someone. No. Marriage counseling. No. I asked what I could possibly do to prove I wasn't going anywhere. Her answer was worse than anger. "There's nothing." Nothing. That meant I had already lost a trial I didn't know I was on. I told her I loved her. She said she believed I meant it. I told her I was committed to her. She said I couldn't know how I would feel later. Then she snapped. "You're a man, Isaiah. I know what happens when women get sick." That sentence stayed with me. Not because it was the cruelest thing anyone had ever said. Because of how certain she sounded. She had turned me into an ending she had read about somewhere else. My actual behavior no longer mattered. The divorce did not happen overnight. For a long time, even I tried to excuse it as one terrible choice made during panic. But it wasn't one moment. It took months. There were delays. Paperwork. Conversations. Opportunities to stop. Every time something slowed down, some stupid hopeful part of me thought Violet might reconsider. Maybe she would call. Maybe she would agree to counseling. Maybe fear would loosen its grip long enough for her to see me again instead of the husband she had decided I would eventually become. She never did. Erica called me once during that period. I almost didn't answer. When I did, she sounded exhausted. "I'm sorry." "For what?" "For all of this." "Did you tell her to do it?" "No." Her answer came immediately. "I've been telling her not to." I sat down. "She said she talked to you?" "She did." "And?" "I told her she was making a decision out of fear." For the first time in weeks, I felt like I wasn't losing my mind. I asked, "Then why won't she listen?" Erica went quiet. "She's talking to a lot of people." "What people?" "Friends. Online groups. Women who went through similar illnesses. And they're telling her to divorce me?" "Not all of them." That told me enough. A few voices had become louder than everything I had actually done. I still tried. Not endlessly. Not dramatically. But enough that I knew later I hadn't watched the marriage collapse without reaching for it. I asked Violet one last time to pause the divorce and go to counseling with me. She refused. By the time everything was finalized, almost a year had passed. We sold the house. The money was divided. I moved about 2 hours away. I didn't leave because I hated Violet. I left because I couldn't keep living inside a place full of everything we had lost. The bathroom reminded me of the night she found the lump. The kitchen reminded me of medication schedules taped to the refrigerator. The bedroom reminded me of nights I stayed awake listening to her breathe. So I went somewhere new. For the first few months, I did little besides work, sleep, and try not to think. Then I got a dog. Owen. He was energetic, stubborn, and completely uninterested in giving me space to feel sorry for myself. He needed walks. Food. Attention. Routine. Eventually, those walks got longer. Then they became hikes. I started gardening because I needed something quiet to do with my hands. At first, almost everything I planted died. The next year, slightly fewer things died. It became a joke I had with myself. Progress. Not impressive progress. But progress. I went on a few dates. Nothing serious. Explaining my divorce was almost impossible without sounding bitter or unbelievable. So I usually kept it simple. "We went through something difficult and didn't make it." That was technically true. Years passed. Violet stopped being the first thing I thought about every morning. The love I had for her didn't disappear completely. It changed. It became attached to memories instead of possibility. I could remember our wedding without wanting the marriage back. I could remember laughing with her without forgetting how it ended. Then Violet called. I almost didn't answer because I didn't recognize the number. "Hello?" There was a pause. Then I heard her voice. "Isaiah?" Everything in me went still. I hadn't heard her speak directly to me in almost 3 years. "Yeah. It's me." I knew. I just didn't know what to say. She told me she had been traveling with friends near the area where I lived now. They had stopped at a garden center. She saw me in the parking lot loading bags of soil into my car. I remembered the day. I hadn't seen her. "I almost came over," she said. "Why didn't you?" I panicked. Owen was sitting by the back door with a ball in his mouth, waiting for me. Violet continued. "Seeing you brought everything back." I stayed quiet. "The university. Our house. Everything. Okay. I miss you." Once, those words would have destroyed me. Now they made me cautious. She told me her treatment had gone well. Her follow-up appointments had been encouraging. I was genuinely relieved. No matter what happened between us, I had never wanted her to suffer. Then she said, "I made a mistake." I closed my eyes. There it was. The sentence I had imagined hearing hundreds of times. Years too late. "What mistake?" "You know." "I want you to say it." Silence. "The divorce." I said nothing. I wasn't myself back then. Okay. I was terrified. Everything felt out of control. I understand that. You can't hold everything I did during the worst period of my life against me forever. That bothered me. Not because her fear wasn't real. It was. But there was something missing. "I'm not trying to punish you. I didn't say you were. I still love you." I sat down. I think I always did. Then why did you divorce me? She started crying. I was scared. That explains the fear. It doesn't explain every choice after it. She went quiet. Then she said, I want another chance. For several seconds, I stared at nothing. I had imagined this moment so many times after the divorce. In those fantasies, I always said yes. Immediately. I pictured her coming home. I pictured forgiving everything. I pictured us picking up the life we had dropped. But that version of me no longer existed. I need time. I understand. I'm serious. I won't pressure you. She waited a few days. Then sent one message. I'm sorry for putting you in this position. I just need you to know I mean what I said. I read it several times. Part of me wondered whether I owed our history one conversation. Not a reunion. A conversation. There was one question I had carried for years. Why? Not the easy answer. Not cancer. Not fear. Why had Violet believed strangers more than me? Why had she decided she knew what I would do when everything I was doing contradicted it? And had anything really changed? I agreed to meet her. I chose a public coffee shop. I didn't want her at my house. That realization probably answered more than I wanted to admit. This was a woman who once knew where I kept every spare key, every important document, every old photograph. Now I didn't want her inside the life I had built after her. Violet was already there when I arrived. She stood immediately. For a second, either of us moved. Then she stepped forward and hugged me. I let her. I didn't hug her back. She noticed. Her arms dropped. Sorry. It's okay. We sat down. She looked older. Not dramatically. Just changed. So was I. You look good, she said. Thanks. I almost didn't recognize you with the beard. I've had it a while. She gave a small smile. I wouldn't know. That sentence sat between us. Before she could continue, I said, I need to talk first. Her smile disappeared. Okay. So I told her. Not every sleepless night. Not every detail. But enough. I told her what that phone call from Erica's house had done to me. How humiliating it felt to beg my wife to believe my own intentions. How I kept waiting for her to change her mind during the divorce. How long it took to stop wondering what I had done wrong. She cried quietly. I'm sorry. I believe you were terrified. I was. And I'm not comparing what I went through to what you went through physically. But I was scared too. She looked at me. I spent every day afraid I might lose you. Her mouth trembled. And while I was afraid cancer might take my wife, you made sure I lost her anyway. She wiped her face. I hurt you. Yes. For once, neither of us softened the sentence. Then I asked the question that mattered. What happens next time? She frowned. What? The next crisis. Her expression changed. That isn't fair. Maybe not. No. It isn't. What if you get sick again? She stared at me. What if I get sick? Why are you doing this? Because life doesn't stop being frightening. I wouldn't do it again. How do you know? Because I do. That's what scares me. Her face hardened. I told you I wasn't myself. I heard you. But what changed? I changed. How? She looked offended. I survived. That isn't what I mean. What do you want from me? Did you ever get help? She frowned. For what? Therapy. Her expression closed instantly. No. Not once? No. I didn't need it. Something inside me dropped. You still don't think what happened is worth understanding? I understand what happened. Then explain it. I had cancer. I thought I might die. I was terrified. I understand all of that. Then what else do you want? I want to understand why being terrified made you decide what kind of man I was. She looked away. I was reading things. What things? Stories. About partners leaving. Yes. You told me that back then. There was more. She told me she had spent hours in online support groups. Some were genuinely helpful. People shared treatment experiences, recovery stories, fear. But she kept finding stories from women whose relationships had collapsed. The more she read, the more she started expecting the same thing. Then she talked to friends. Some told her to protect herself, not to become dependent on me, not to let me decide later whether she was still worth staying with. I asked, "What did Erica say?" Violet hesitated. "She told me not to leave." I already knew. Still, hearing her admit it mattered. "She told you not to divorce me." "Yes." "And you did it anyway." She looked down. "Why?" I thought she didn't understand. "And your friends did?" "Some of them made me feel stronger." That word caught me. "Stronger how?" She took a long breath. "I felt like everybody was waiting for me to become this helpless sick woman. I never treated you like that." "No." "So what did leaving prove?" She rubbed her forehead. "I wanted control over something. That I understand. I felt like if I stayed and trusted you, I was waiting for you to decide my future. But I had already decided. I know that now. I told you then." She closed her eyes. "I felt like I had to go through with it." "Why?" Her eyes met mine. "To prove I was strong." Everything inside me went quiet. "You divorced me to prove you were strong." "That's not exactly what I meant." "It's what you said." "I was trying to survive." "So was I." "You didn't have cancer." "No." I kept my voice calm. "But I was still your husband." That broke something in her. She started crying harder. "I'm sorry." I believed she meant it. That was the difficult part. I didn't think Violet was evil. I didn't think she had wanted to hurt me. She had been terrified. She had made terrible choices from a place of fear. But fear didn't erase what those choices did. She wiped her face. "We could start slowly." "What?" "We don't have to get married again. We could talk. Have dinner sometimes. Go for walks. Violet. Just give me a chance to show you." I looked down at my untouched coffee. There was a time when I would have given anything to hear those words. Now all I could think about was the question she still hadn't answered. What had changed in the part of her that once decided fear was more trustworthy than me? "I can't." She stopped. "What?" "I can't do this again." Her face went pale. "You said you still care about me." "I do." "Then why?" "Because caring about you isn't the same as trusting you." "I told you I wouldn't do it again. And I want to believe you." "Then believe me." That almost hurt more than anything else she had said. "That's exactly what you asked me to do years ago." She stared at me. "What?" "You asked me to believe that you knew what I would eventually do." She said nothing. "You were certain I would leave. I was sick. And now you're certain you'd never make a decision like that again." Silence. "I don't know how to trust certainty from you anymore." Her eyes filled. "That's cruel." "I'm not trying to be." "So everything we had means nothing?" "Our marriage meant everything to me." "Then don't throw it away twice." For a second, I almost doubted myself. Then I remembered the year I spent waiting. The signatures. The empty house. The nights wondering why my wife thought strangers understood me better than I understood myself. "I didn't throw it away the first time." She flinched. "I tried to stay married to you." Her voice cracked. "So that's it?" "I think it has to be." "You won't even try?" "I tried for almost a year." That stopped her. I stood slowly. "I hope you stay healthy." She looked up at me. "You're really leaving?" The irony of that sentence almost hurt. "Yes." "You promised you wouldn't." I stared at her. "That promise was made to my wife." Her face changed. "I was your wife. And then you divorced me because you believed I would do exactly what you forced me to survive." She looked away. "I made a mistake. I forgive you for being afraid." Her eyes lifted. "But forgiveness isn't the same as going back." She shook her head. "You're punishing me." "No." "Yes, you are. I'm protecting the life I had to rebuild after you left." Her expression hardened. "So that's it? You get to move on and I just live with this?" I didn't know what answer she wanted. I picked up my jacket. "I'm sorry." She reached for her iced drink. At first, I thought she was moving it. Then she threw it at me. The cup hit my chest. Cold liquid splashed across my shirt. I scattered across the floor. The coffee shop went silent. Violet stared at me. Anger left her face almost immediately. Then came embarrassment. Regret. But she didn't apologize. She grabbed her bag. "Forget it." Then she walked out. I stood there soaked while a young employee hurried over with napkins. Are you okay? I looked toward the door. Yeah. And strangely, I was. Not happy. Not relieved. Just certain. I drove home with the windows cracked because my shirt smelled like sweet coffee. Owen met me at the door carrying his favorite ball. I changed. Fed him. Then went outside and watered the garden. Nothing dramatic happened. No breakdown. No sudden feeling that everything had finally healed. I just went through the evening. Later, I blocked Violet's number. For years, I thought closure meant getting the answer that would finally make everything make sense. Now I had it. She had been terrified. She had surrounded herself with other people's worst experiences until she started treating them like predictions. Some friends told her taking control meant leaving before she could be hurt. Her sister told her to slow down. I begged her to stay. She chose fear. Years later, she regretted it. That was the answer. And it still didn't change the ending. I don't hate Violet. I hope she stays healthy. I hope she eventually makes peace with what happened. Maybe some people will think I should have given her another chance. Maybe they're right. She was facing one of the most frightening things a person can face. Fear changes people. I understand that better than I wish I did. But I was the one her fear landed on. And by the time she came back asking me to trust her again, I finally understood something I hadn't understood when she first left. Losing Violet wasn't what scared me anymore. Trusting her enough to lose myself again was.